Hello YouTube, Kyle here. What I'm going to attempt to do is make a lot of short segment videos, edit them all together, and see if I can come up with a medium length video with everything that I do to reload some 308s. What I have here is just a bag. I've got some brass in it, and this brass has already been just tumbled for a little bit just to get it clean so it doesn't get my dies dirty. This is just some rubbing alcohol and lanolin oil, and it's a pretty simple mixture. I just mix the alcohol to about here, then put some oil in, shake it up, let it sit for a couple of minutes. If there's no oil sitting on the bottom, add a little bit more oil. It's the way I do it. Shake it up, let it sit for 5 minutes, and you see just a little bit of oil on the bottom, you're good. But anyway, shake it up. A couple of spritz in the bag. We're just going to wad this up, shake it around. What I have here is once fired brass, but not out of my rifle. And what I'm doing with this today, got to open the bag up, let it breathe a little bit. What I'm doing is I'm going to load up some ladder loads with a couple of different powders for these 200 grain gas checked Lee bullets. These have been, I sized them and gas checked them and then powder coated them, and then ran them back through a 309 sizing die, so they're all at 309. So I'm going to let this sit for about 5 minutes, let the alcohol evaporate off of it, and then I'm going to run them through the sizing die, and I'll tell you why it's a different step. Be right back. Okay guys, it's been about 5 minutes. What I've done is taken the brass out of the bag, just put it in a little bucket that conveniently fits right here. Now all I'm doing on this step of the process is sizing the brass, and I'm using a headspace gauge because I know what the headspace is supposed to be, and since these weren't fired out of my rifle, I've got my die set up to give me 1.624, and of course this one's 1.630. Thought I had the die set up, only on YouTube. Let's try that. Alright, run that back through, bump the shoulder back a little. Alright, 1.624. I don't know if y'all can see that. Okay. I don't know why that's backwards, but it is. Alright, but anyway, now what I'm doing, I'm popping the primers out. See how nasty that is in there? And how nasty this is? I ran them through a wet tumbler just to get the crud off the outside to keep my die clean. So, to not bore you, I'm going to size all of this brass. I'm only doing about 30 to 40 because I'm going to work up some ladder loads. What I'm essentially going to do with it, just use a headspace gauge or a case check gauge. Lord, make sure they're not sticking out. As light a crimp as I'm going to put on these, just because they're cast bullets, I'm just doing a little bit of ladder testing. I'm going to put a really light crimp on just to hold the bullet, so overall length is not really that super important on these. Now, if I'm loading my target rounds, which I use a 208 grain AMAX with 4064 powder, those are exact. I measure, trim, everything, every single one of them. Any of them that I find that may be over the overall length, I'll call them off to the side and just trim those when I trim the ones that I use for my precision rifle, or precision load, same rifle. Right now I'm just trying to figure out how to send these babies downrange with accuracy. I'm only looking for about 400 to 500 yards. I should be able to get that pretty easily. I'm going to finish sizing all this, and I'll show you the next step. Be right back. Okay guys, got everything sized, deprimed. One thing I did find out, I don't know if you can see this, some of these are military cramped brass. So, you know, you take your little handheld tool and you start reaming it. That's all well and good. I've got the whole set here to do both large and small primers, but that's not the way I do it. If you come right over here, this is the way to do it. Now, that crimp groove is gone. So, excuse me, take that bucket. I'm going to make sure all of these are good, and then transfer them to this bucket. And then, this is what's nice about wet tumbling. If you do have to trim some of these, which I didn't find any of these that were over length, if you do have to trim them, this machine does have a chamfer and deburr bit on it that spins as well. But if you're wet tumbling and using the pins, you can just trim it down, throw it in the bucket, and then when you wet tumble it, the pin action and everything else will chamfer and deburr the thing for you. So that's just a little hint and tip for y'all to ponder. I'm going to go ahead and finish reaming all the primer pockets on these, get them ready to roll. Then I'm going to wet tumble them for about hour and a half to 2 hours. Some of these are a little scuzzy still, just because I put them through just an initial cleaning. Here's one that's kind of bad. Let me get out of the light here. See, it's just tarnished, got some water spots where it laid around somewhere. I'm going to put all this in the wet tumbler. It's going to take care of all of that. And be back in a bit. Alright guys, we're back at yet another reloading bench. Just got the brass out of the wet tumbler. Fried it in the oven, about 200 degrees, about 10 minutes. That stuff is gorgeous. Alright, what I've got here, just a little Lee turret press. I'm going to take the brass, and by the way, look at those primer pockets now. This whole thing is just beautiful. Inside and out. Looks brand new. What I'm going to do right here, I've got a universal sizing die right here. Got it set up to where it'll fit. Just barely fit this cast bullet in the neck. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it up. Bump the head on it. Take a primer. Without dropping it on the floor maybe. Alright. See the primer. Take a look at everything. Looks good. Throw it up here in my little loading tray. And just repeat the process. Like I say, I'm loading about 30 or 40 of these with different ladder loads. I think I'm going to try 4350 on one. And maybe 4064 on another one. Shoot a bunch of 3-shot groups. In the coming weekend or two. And see what we can make happen. See which one my Weatherby likes the best. It loves 4064 on regular loads. So I'm just going to finish this up. And we shall see what happens. Be back later. Hey guys. Just dawned on me. This video may be getting a little long. Especially if I'm going to show the powder charging and the way I do all that. And so I'm gonna cut the video right here, call this part 1, and part 2 I guess will be the ladder loading and bullet seating and all that. And I shall see you guys later. Maybe we'll make part 3 shooting them. Who knows? Alright guys, see ya.